We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, by air, President Roosevelt has just announced. The attack also was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu. We take you now to Washington.
The details are not available. They will be in a few minutes. The White House is now giving out a statement. The attack apparently was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu. The President's brief statement was read to reporters by Stephen Early, the President's secretary. A Japanese attack upon Pearl Harbor naturally would mean war. Such an attack would naturally bring a counterattack, and hostilities of this kind would naturally mean that the President would ask Congress for a declaration of war. There is no doubt from the temper of Congress that such a declaration would be granted. This morning, Secretary Hull talked with the Secretaries of War and of the Navy. Now the two special Japanese envoys, Admiral Nomura and Special Envoy Kurusu, are at the State Department, engaged in conference with Secretary of State Hull. Their appearance at the State Department on this Sunday afternoon emphasizes the gravity of the Far Eastern situation, where hostilities now seem to be actually opening over the whole South Pacific. And just now comes the word from the President's office that a second air attack has been reported on Army and Navy bases in Manila. Thus, we have official announcements from the White House that Japanese airplanes have attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii and have now attacked Army and Navy bases in Manila. We return you now to New York, and we'll give you later information as it comes along from the White House. Return you now to New York.
I wonder what Christmas was like, 1941. And I wonder what impact that had maybe on some of you. I was 4 years old. Maybe your parents, maybe your grandparents. As they were coming to grips with the implication of this. It must have been interesting times. I use this to make an extremely important point with you. That we're in considerable turbulence today. We may or may not have political systems here and globally that can handle it. But just like I watched your faces as you heard the old radio accounts from the Roosevelt White House. So I want to be serious with you this morning. I want to break through all this spin controls and all the media forms and all the political gamesmanship. 2 weeks ago, I presented some of these ideas to David Axelrod, President Obama's chief political consultant, and to Jeb Bush, trying to say, are you sure we're on the right pathway? Now, I'm saying this to you because, based on your age group, I just heard about, there's the accumulation of wisdom and some resources that you could use. My basic theme is that the problems of existence which we have created through our successes and our failures have outstripped our capacities to sort out our Rubik's Cube. And so I want to say as gently as I can that there are alternatives. I have for a half century been searching for them. I realize today is the 70th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. We are still not safe. Is it possible for humans? Are we bright enough? Are we clever enough? Are we courageous enough to say enough? Now, while you wouldn't expect someone from Texas to say things like that, and for you to listen, instead of poison, I introduced liberal intellectual ants into the population, eroding the ants' patriotism and causing them to question the authoritarian rule of the Queen. Slowly over generations, it weakens the ants' genetic resolve to the point where they stay in the nest at all times, watching television and writing letters to the editor. Beware of how we talk about change. Beware of political choices during presidential campaigns. Because what exists today is what I'm just about to demonstrate for you. I'm going to ask for volunteers in my typical volunteer fashion, if that's quite all right with everyone. Okay, I'll start with you two, you and you, if you'll come up here, right down here. I'm going to, yeah. No. Yeah. It's not time for women yet, is it? Okay, your line is destroy, destroy. Loud.
Destroy, destroy.
Okay, if you stay here, and then if you come over here. I want to separate you. Okay, now I need you, right? And I need you. All right. Okay, your line is my way, my way.
My way.
Louder, louder.
My way, my way.
My way too.
My way, my way.
All right, okay, you over here, and you over here. I just want you to know how serious I am about all of this. Okay, I need you, and I need you. Yeah, come on, up, quick. We got right here. We got 45 minutes to save the world. So, okay, truth. Oh boy, that's good. All right. Okay, now I need you and that lady sitting next to you. You see, we've now crossed the gender line. All right. Okay. Make a deal, you two.
Make a deal.
Isn't that wonderful? All right, now I need you for sure. Yes, and I need, there's so many candidates for this one. And Adrian. Up here.
Where do we go?
Right here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Come together.
Come together.
Yeah. Isn't this wonderful? Okay, will you come up for me? Yeah, you up here.
Okay, there we go.
Here's my good friend from L.A. who came down just to hear me speak. Yeah, right here. Okay, your line is help.
Help!
Okay, all right now. Everyone in full voice. I want to hear the orchestra. Loud. Okay, all right already. I just want to get you ready for 2012. Whether Fox Network or MSNBC, we hear these voices. Tower of Babel 2. Now, What do you think here about these, apparently on the side of the spectrum, who want to make a deal? What do you think about them?
As a destroyer?
Yeah.
This is not the answer. We're not deal making.
Yeah, because it's a sellout.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Listen to what Newt hears today from his extreme right wing.
Now, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah. Or listen to what Obama hears from his extreme left wing. We elected you to make these changes, and you haven't done it. You sold us out. So you see those messages coming out of these particular mindsets. So my friend George W. Bush was seen by the extreme left wing, as a fascist. And Bill Clinton was seen by the right wing as a communist. Never in Orange County, for sure. So you hear the myriad of voices that are shouting at us. Can we do anything about it? Or do we simply hope for the best? Now, I'm going to put a challenge to you, your age group. In Orange County, just like recently with Eli Lilly, I challenged Eli Lilly to take responsibility for the immune system of the species Homo sapien. Oh, Don, we're just a little pill company. I'm going to make a challenge to you to begin to find the ways to do something about this. What if you had had advanced knowledge of the attack on Pearl Harbor? Would you have kept it to yourself, and would you have simply enjoyed your friendship and fellowship in utter denial? Or would you have acted on it? What if my dear friend and colleague Elsa is here, and our doing is making that kind of warning? But at the same time, getting rid of what we don't want is not the same thing as getting what we do want. So we drop a few intellectuals into this, Harvard trained, of course. And don't realize the consequences of what they're saying. Because we haven't been able to play on the full keyboard of human systems and bring that keyboard to bear on issues about the environment, about crime, about drugs, close to here down into Mexico, all those things. We only select one or two of these voices and send them down there. What are they going to do? They're going to make things worse. So there are few moments in the life of civilization where new conceptual windows open. But too often, no one hears it. Okay, one more time. That was brilliant. Loud. All right, thank you very much. Nice job. Wonderful. What we have going on here is this, where we have these particular points of view. Flamethrowers, aggressive, violent, predatory, that can come from the left or the right. Zealots, true believers, highly doctrinaire, no compromise. Be they in the Tea Party or be they in the Occupation of Wall Street group. Ideologues, true believers, absolutists, firm convictions and rigid boundaries. More moderating influences, Softer beliefs, sees other options, less intense. Pragmatist, very practical, believes what works. Make a deal, make a deal. And then conciliator, come together, come together. I wrote my PhD dissertation at the University of Oklahoma. Who didn't play football this weekend, Saeed? Yeah. On how this happened in 1860 and what happened to Stephen Douglas in the middle position and why Lincoln couldn't make a decision about how to handle the radicalizations that was coming on his left, on his right. I envisioned going to see him, having done my research and my dissertation with options. Now, I don't blame the past for knowledge in the present that they don't have. That's the nuke pro tunc fallacy and historical reason. So I failed in 1861. So the next opportunity came up in South Africa, where I made 63 trips. And I said, not this time. So I designed a transformational strategy for South Africa using South Africans, where when the pressure point came, we had already preconditioned them and activated their antibodies to respond in certain ways, or there would have been a civil war. Now, Elza and I have recently been in Palestine, Israel, where we did the same thing. But just like many in 1941, they couldn't hear us. But what I didn't know then, which I know now, was what caused these particular beliefs, whether on the left or on the right, were value systems. That the real action, the real clash, wasn't about what they were shouting about. It was about the underlying belief systems and worldviews that occupied their priority systems, that were reinforced by the game. They got deeper and deeper and worse and more radical until the firing began. But now, not firing muskets, now the danger is firing nuclear-tipped weapons. And we still haven't learned from history. So the point that I'm going to be making with you, and what I tried to suggest to Axelrod and Bush, if I can get you to stop listening to these voices here and start responding to the deeper codes, there's a way to sort it out. I submit South Africa as evidence. Briefly, and this is based on years of research at the University of Oklahoma, when we encounter this kind of condition, we have to begin to find what are superordinate goals. Goals or values that everyone needs to achieve, but no group can achieve it on their own. We have to build the capacities with more reasonable people on both sides to reject their radical voices simultaneously. Because you can't resolve an issue from one side only. The issues between Israel and Palestine are a dance. They're dancing partners. We have to find a new dance. Because the problem isn't just between Israel and Palestine or Israelis and Arabs. Because within both, within the Israeli community, you have these conflicting voices. Having been in Tel Aviv, I can tell you, I hear them. Having been in the West Bank, we have those conflicting voices and offer the internal conflicts within cause the major conflicts between. Because you never know. You never know who sends the bomb. Therefore, if we're going to play on all the piano keys, then we've got to work simultaneously within, between. Obviously, you know ahead of time where we're going to run into opposition. So we submit the need for the master code. Master code as in master key that unlocks many different locks. We are finding it genetically in the Human Genome Project. And we believe truly that we can find it mimetically, that is, value systems and cultures within the Human Genome Project. So it uncovers the deepest human motives, and those are the colors. The colors have no meaning. It's not a chakra color scheme. It's simply a language that we use. Adaptive intelligences for different life conditions, not a predetermined Calvinistic script or crop circles in the human psyche that unfold on cue, but adaptive intelligences. And it's these adaptive intelligences to life conditions that we can monitor, we can understand, we can facilitate, and we can defuse. Tracks the deep change codes to monitor and facilitate large-scale systems transformation. Els and I went to Washington to introduce to the American Psychological Association a whole new branch of psychology called psychology at the large scale. We knew ahead of time who wasn't going to like it: the humanist, the behaviorist, the Freudian crowd, because we were challenging the exclusivity of their psychological models. Same thing in management school, between those who embrace various schools of management and what's the latest one. And I looked at all your programs over the last few years, and I could take this map and show you where they belong in the sequence of evolutionary systems. Now, we recently said that to Deepak Chopra's evolutionary leaders, and you know a lot of the names: Barbara Marx Hubbard and Gene Houston, and this brilliant man who just has a wonderful posting on the Facebook. Yeah, to try to make the point with them, because in the first meetings I was there, I listened to all of them tell us what they want to do, write books, and Barbara Marx Hubbard has her futures kind of thing that she's working on. And I stopped and said, wait a minute. I haven't heard anybody here talk about what needs to be done. I've heard a lot of ego speak, and you've had a lot of those voices that come through these programs. Where do you find the scientific and academic and practical analysis of what are the real problems to untangle? Spin spider-type webs to connect what matters most to design what works best. Meshes global with local, left and right brain, sacred secular patterns to advance human emergence, impacts economics, geopolitics, religion, spirituality, community development, education, and healthcare. Now, Don, for a person from Texas, you're claiming a lot that those of us from California have a little trouble accepting. I hear that often. There are many times in Johannesburg I would hear Yankees go home. To which I'd say, hell, we've been saying that in Texas for years. So the question becomes, what kind of filters do we have? And what happens in our environment to support those filters? And is that what we're going to be permanently? So I first got on this track when I encountered the work of Claire W. Graves. I call my point of view the emergent cyclical double helix model of adult biopsychosocial systems development. What? Huh? That's why we call it spiral dynamics. And for many, that's not any better. It is as complex as our problems are today. That's why a lot of people choosing the simple are unable to cope with it, which means we have to find those people who have the open capacities to explore a complexity that's far beyond what they learned in college or they learned from their parents or from the media. I have an idea that we'll find a lot of those people in your age group. Time on your hands, the fact that you're here to discover. You realize never too old. Look, I'll be 75 in a month or so. I'd rather be home with my bride, Pat, and my puppy, Chessie. But I'm a driven man. Driven because I came across this understanding of human nature, well researched scientifically. No one ever challenges me. No one ever challenges me. We just completed a major research effort at the University of Cologne because Germans are beginning to get it, where we use PET scans and fMRI measurement systems to find these located in the human neurology. Now who wants to challenge me from very simple pencil and paper research data? So Graves said that you have to look at three things. You have to look at what are the life conditions. I've done some things with U.S. Army Special Forces in Afghanistan. And the life conditions of Afghanistans is horrible. And the Taliban has solutions that fit their life conditions. And we came into town, dropping bombs on them, with complex ideas that were far beyond their capacity to handle. I'm talking about both. And you see, once again, these colors, which is simply our communication device. Different levels of psychological development in people. And with that cartoon about the anthill, if we inject two great complexities into conditions back here, we destroy the infrastructure that allowed people with abundance to begin to think in these complex ways. We climb the ladder ourselves and then threw it down so others can't climb it. Noble humans we are, aren't we? So when I speak of the full piano keys, I'm speaking of all these. But there's a third category, what people think, what people do, beliefs and behaviors. Whenever we were doing some things in the West Bank, I actually spoke to Hamas. They wouldn't shake Elsa's hand. They came to discredit us. All we did is present what I'm showing you today. Two of the guys took me off and said, Dr. Beck, we have a male code of honor. The Jews took our houses in 1948. Here are the keys. And if I can't get that house back, I'm not a real man. So, my way, my way. So I said, what if I can show you a better way to be my way than that? House is probably gone. You wouldn't want to live there anyway. How about building an education system for your grandchildren? That's being a real man. So you see how we work within existing systems here? And Elsa is just the best there is, particularly with Arab societies. I mean, she's a huge threat because she sees through all those filters. So, I know I'm over-complexifying, and I've given you a handout, and some of you have heard me before. So just very quickly, how cultures emerge from a tribal animistic system, ways of the tribe, through a rebellious breakaway, law of the jungle, with Chaka Zulus and radical leadership patterns, to commands of higher authority. Because what Palestinians tell us is, what's next for them is this. Because the cultures are very strong here. But American consultants, USAID, funded by a lot of corporate money, come in and want to put in this system here. Human rights. Teaching women new sex behavior. But what they want is to build schools. So we're out of sync. Things that we are doing, like that cartoon, injecting intelligent ants into it, will destroy it. You don't need DDT. Consultants will take care of that for you. I hope I'm troubling some of you. So here, well-researched, not made up by grades or anybody, disciplined, academic, over years and years and years and years and years, showing how human nature emerges in response to the life conditions. And in a much more popular vein, staying alive, safety, security, power, action, stability, salvation, success, and material gain. Make a deal, make a deal. Community harmony, come together, come together. But some new systems are just on the horizon that luckily for us have the codes to deal with all of this because they possess the master code. So I work with Mandela and South African rugby team because Mandela needed a nation-building euphoria. How many opportunities did we have in that conflictual society in South Africa? Very few. Early on, even when Mandela was still in prison, I conceived of this project to use the Springbok in the World Cup to rally all South Africans who for the first time would identify themselves as South Africans. Anyone see the movie? You saw the master code. I got it too, Omar, a strange feeling like we've just been going in circles. So they hire McKinsey and Company and say pay them more. Or they pay teachers more, which I believe in, for obvious reasons. Or they hire consultants, put them in a trust walk. Remember those trust walk things you used to do? Or build air conditioning hut on top of them. Keep them cool when it's hot and warm when it's cold. Will that solve the problem? Give them better ores, say the high-tech people. If they have better ores, that'll solve it through technology. Will it? Or you put all these people over here and all these people over here and call it transformation. Yes, I'm stepping on some toes under some tables here right now. Shipwrecked or not, Bradley, we must maintain the chain of command. But Bradley knows how to fish. And you had a sudden change in what matters. Today, the young, Gen Y, on the internet, know how to fish. And the poor despots and emperors of the world are shaking in their boots because their days are numbered. Because power is changing. But it's raw. It's uninformed. It's like what happened in Egypt, wanting democracy. What does that mean? Well, no one knows, but it's not what we're doing today. So going through the chaos, and there's no guarantee what's going to come out of there is healthy, because I've learned one person, one vote models are sometimes a total disaster. Sorry, Thomas Jefferson. They work where you have different mindsets in the population, about 5,000 per person income. Then those models are marvelous. Like today in Japan, thank you, Douglas MacArthur. Good work. But I think we need just a little more detail right here. Old state, change state, new state. Uh-oh. That's why Elza and I do not support negotiation in Middle East. How many more times do the Arabs and Israel have to meet? Camp David Accord, for God's sake, 1,000 years of that. Why haven't they solved the problem? Because they can't. They're trapped on the surface, like you heard here. So we've introduced what's called natural design. And I'll show you in a moment exactly what we mean by that. So what about leadership? If I ask all of you to define leadership, what would you do? Well, you come out, leaders are, blah, blah, blah. And I said, wait a minute. You're only defining one model of leadership. You have to design it for the whole piano keyboard. So how should who lead, motivate, manage, teach, influence whom to do what, for which people, living where? You want to revitalize education in this country? We can tell you how to do that. And of course my wife will. How should who teach whom to learn what? With which children? Coming from where? Now, there are politicians and their business interests that want to sell education textbooks and packages, just like we have people investing in prisons that want to sell prisons as a commercial thing, and they need guests in their hotels. So they prevail on the political class to give them a lot of guests, having committed just minor crimes, 3 ounces of marijuana. I mean, they're good prison guests because the state pays good money. Do you hear me? So here are the implications, and we made this presentation at the United Nations. From the clash to the confluence of civilizations, reshaping the UN to close the great global divides. Too many vested interests. A 5-fold strategy. Uncover the models and processes for global emergence through step stages, waves, and sequences of development. That's the main act. In our language, that's spiral dynamics. We spiralize the world. Create the measuring, monitoring, research technology to detect global mimetic contours and early warning signs of danger. We would have anticipated December 7, 1941. We would have detected the weak signals early, even before the Japanese sent their carriers. We just put in such a system in Singapore. Because Singapore, full of bright Chinese engineers, knew the SARS virus just about took them down. They said, never again. They scanned for sick pigs in China. They know before the Chinese government knows about sick pigs. Sick pigs ultimately are a factor in producing the kind of viruses for which we have annual vaccinations. That's why I said what I did to Eli Lilly. Construct scaffoldings of solutions that address the needs, wants, and aspirations of people in different mimetic zones. On these vast amounts of data, overlay an understanding of the dynamics of change in its many dimensions, and that's what we were modeling here for you. To see that and show how naive. Even our friend Jimmy Carter, please. Design a macro strategy for introducing superordinate goals into leadership structures and decision-making domains around the planet. That's what I said to Axelrod and Bush. First thing you ought to do after whoever wins, call a National Assembly. So when we speak globally, you can begin to see. That's why it's stratified democracy, various versions of democracy based on spoke U.S. Army Special Forces. Afghanistan, heavy tribal empire warlord society. Taliban, a very rigid. That's why Taliban wins, because we come in with these values here. So, stratified democracy playing on the full Kiana seaboard. Another example is in Iceland, where we did a major analysis, mimetically value systems in Iceland before the financial crisis. And then approached the Prime Minister saying, you got problems because your population is chasing the big bucks and the nice German cars to bring back to Reykjavik. Why they want that in Reykjavik, I don't know. A very high tribal system. Recently, a survey said about 25% of Icelanders don't discount the invisible people because they live in the tradition of Vikings and sagas. No, the blue system. We didn't have the mindset there. The churches were totally vacant. You see the price. And when you read the brilliant work that Said has done in analyzing our financial crisis, you'll see exactly the same patterns. None of the great experts on CNN have a clue about it. When the value systems are dysfunctional and out of alignment, this is what you get. So we had a heavy orientation, as Iceland did, make a lot of money fast with the derivatives that were simply pieces of paper that were separated from anything that had meaning. Then you add in a heavy green system that says everyone deserves their own house. Can they pay for it? Well, no. So a lot of financiers and builders were seduced into building a lot of houses, knowing they would go underwater. Did they care? No. Why? The government backed it up with tax money. And one of the chief instigators just announced he's resigning from Congress. I won't tell you his name, but he's from Massachusetts. Then we ask, what's changing? More red is growing, egocentric, more orange entrepreneurism, making a lot of money. What about these systems? They're dying. We detected them. And then after the crash, we came back in with 2 more assessments, supporting exactly what we had said. And here was the beginning of the Arab Spring. It was in Bethlehem. It wasn't in Egypt. The Palestinians, 700, came together to describe what they need in Palestine for it to be a livable, dynamic community. No one spoke about Israel or the occupation. And that's what triggered in the West Bank, in the PLO, that movement of independence where today many elements are thriving. Started here. And we had these printed, 1,000 of them, with Arafat's colors on them and a spiral on it. Printed 1,000. The only place that you can find them now is on eBay. They became such a hot item. We're using memetics to spread ideas. And ultimately, this is what we've got. We have a Palestine, heavy red, purple. One version of blue emerging is a pretty heavy jihadist-oriented one, or could be, that would create conflict with Israel for years to come. Or here we were up here introducing a new kind of blue that would be healthy. And we were using natural design processes, and they were doing it. Here they are. And we went to the State Department and said, we got something here different. Were they? No, they were planning their first trip to Africa. So full of hubris and selfishness. Didn't matter who the president was. You run into the same thing in State Department. Sad. But it's our State Department, for God's sake. And when you look at Israel, including the diaspora, you'll see a very complex set of memetics with Nobel Prize winners. Very small number of people. Amazing ability. But you jam this against that, and you'll get red out of Israel, and they'll elect a prime minister. And the world says, oh, it's horrible. Well, what the hell? And we talked about the intifadas and how they produced the wall. Now, there's guilt enough to go around. There's a dance between the two. And these two wings of our spectrum interact with each other to generate each other. That's the game. And we are supporting the game, and then we complain. So back, almost through, back to my master code. The real source of the master code lies along the contours of the life conditions. They don't exist in people, any ethnicity, any age, any cultural group, any gender. The master code identifies what needs to be done. That's why nature takes care of us if we don't interfere into it. That's why A needs N. Problems A needs system N, beige. Problems B, long ago, safety security needs system O. The danger where we have to attack needs P. Problems P. So you see, these are intelligences that adapt to our life conditions. That's why when we scan the planet, we'll see different profiles and contours of life conditions. Please listen to me. Until we can look through the lenses of that, then we're going to fund projects that are impossible, both locally and in inner cities, not far from here. If what we want and can do fails the test, then the problems of existence, including our own capacities, are not resolved. The master code makes the selection. We either adapt to them or we don't. Now, this is not some cosmic kind of force that's coming down on flying saucers I'm talking to you about. Just like nature impacts our whole genetic history and responses, so nature impacts our mimetic formation of culture and value systems. It's in nature's way. The best way to seek to uncover the master code is by using functional analysis. This methodology strips away ideology, ego-involved positions, and political correctness to get down to the core of essential functions, which often disguise the very code necessary to deal with those functions. That's why I'm a huge Bill Cosby fan. Because Cosby said, no, we got inner city problems that look like race. Maybe it's about the way we're raising our kids initially. And Jesse Jackson climbs all over him. Because that's not the proper line, you see, for the industry that thrives on that distortion. I'll apologize for being so opinionated, but it is December 7th. And I spent all World War II out here. My dad was in the 4th Army Air Corps. Used to cross the bridge in San Francisco, Golden Gate, where all the lights were out because we were afraid of Japanese submarines or balloons. Finally, transpartisanship. I'm one of the primary minds behind transpartisan. It's required when the complexity and diversity in societies outstrip the bipolar political processes that attempt to contain them, or when a country is evenly divided into two camps, liberal, conservative, traditional, progressive, thus producing a vapor lock. Transpartisanship sets the system right, overcomes decades of extreme views and cultural wars, intervenes in times of extreme emergencies. Transpartisan thinking cleanses the deck, rewinds the clock, resets the hands. Then partisan, nonpartisan, even occasional bipartisan efforts keep the system in motion until something in the future, transpartisanship perspectives emerge. So whether we're talking here about vibrant companies, and Southwest Airlines has been one of ours for some time, as Whole Foods Market is. Anyone go to Whole Foods Market? And dynamic societies, because this is what we believe in. And this is my final, and I'll close at the very second your time goes to 0. Are you ready? Would you like to time me? Give me a 5, 4, 3, 2, what you watch, and when it's this time. You can never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Now, with a little self-propaganda, we teach this. We use movie clips. We teach it all over the world. The academic world doesn't get it, I must tell you. We've tried. People in your age category will. Thank you very much.